So here is this very important announcement. Complete booster course for CAT 2024 we are going to launch from 5th of September. Now why should you consider joining this? ये बताना बहुत जरूरी है. Now CAT is hardly 80 odd days left, which means that now we do not need to focus on building our capacity slowly and steadily. What we need basically is absolute ragaram patti. What we need basically is a thorough, absolutely consistent and rigorous practice schedule. So what we plan to do in booster course is that we would introduce you to the newer kind of questions, harder level of questions, rigorous and thorough analysis, and we plan to do a lot of other things also. For example, 250 plus LRDI sets for intense practice. Now when you hardly have 80 odd days left for CAT, what you can't really do is sit back and relax saying that I'm doing okay in mock and why should I bother too much. The problem is others are working hard. As days come nearer, if others keep on working harder, you would be standing at the same place but still your percentile would dip. So ये जो fluctuation in percentile है, you have to be very careful about it. And therefore what we plan to do in the booster course is that we would give you a lot of live classes followed by video solutions, and there we would do in-depth analysis. The idea is to keep you guys absolutely on track with intense pressure through the entire program. 1500 plus quantitative aptitude questions, 30 different sectionals, new and challenging questions. The entire idea is to make sure that what generally happens in CAT is students go with a certain mindset and then they come across questions and then they are taken aback. Last year it happened in quant, for example. Students were literally taken aback. नए questions देख के react नहीं कर पाए and their scores went down. So we are just trying to make sure that we prepare you for all kinds of eventualities. So we are going to take live classes, and of course there will be video solutions that would help you understand at your own pace. किसी रीजन से क्लासेस वगैरह मिस होती हैं तो वीडियो सॉल्यूशंस भी रहेंगे, सेक्शनल्स के, मॉक्स के, so that you can watch them at your own pace. Make sure you don't miss it. 5th September we are launching it. Now in VARC especially, 1000 plus VARC questions, we are building it. We will make sure that you guys go through all of this, and of course we would also do time-based practice with complete video solutions and interactive classes. So the idea would be that my name is KD and I take VARC sessions. Ayush sir, we both would take live classes so that your areas where you need a little bit of hand holding, approaches, strategy, elimination strategy, how to read passages faster with more depth, all these things are taken care of. तो ये सारी चीजें करेंगे, crazy stuff. So make sure you don't miss it. The prices are absolutely at the economic level. We want to make sure that we reach the maximum number of students rather than the most paying ones. So don't miss it out at all. Check out our website in case you have not done it yet. And of course, YouTube channel subscription, definitely you would consider doing that also. And let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to this short video. In this video, we would talk about a couple of questions from VA, challenging ones. Of course, I would also discuss how to go about them. Approach की बात करेंगे. These are the recent types that we have seen in CAT lately, and of course, we have to build our capacities to solve these questions under time pressure. Usually you would see that when you do the same questions after the mock is over or after the sectional test is over, you are able to get the question right. You have those oh moments, oh I did not see this, oh my god, ooh, ouch kind of moments. But under time pressure, the same thing does not strike. The difference is that when you do not have a time pressure on or a ticking clock, very clearly you can see things differently, right? The question is, how do we do it under time pressure? CAT में time pressure तो रहेगा, that's a given. So the usual way of course would be that you first get a very good command. Usually I suggest this in my classes also, that initially just aim for 70% accuracy without time limit. I'm talking about VA questions. Even if you're starting just now, initially do not bother about time. So let's say you take 5 questions of parajumble, just solve them. Take 10 minutes if you have to for one question, but initially just aim that if I'm doing, let's say 10 questions, I should be able to get 5 questions right. Time kitna bhi lag jaye, farak nahi padta. Once you start getting the hang of it, for example, once you start understanding the logical approach, for example, you understand how to find the connecting words, how to look at the words that can join two sentences, how to create those mandatory pairs, how to look for opening ending kind of sentences and things like that, then you start putting time pressure. Initially, of course, no time limit, then you can reduce it. For example, you can start with probably 4 minutes per question. I'm doing a para summary question, I'll give myself 4 minutes, okay, per question. But eventually you have to bring it down to 2 minutes per question. Even within these 2 minutes, you have to divide 1 minute. Now remember, while writing CAT, I can tell you from experience, I write CAT almost every single year. When the exam is going on, you do not have a very clear-cut sense of time. You won't be able to see the timer to check 1 minute ho gaya, nahi ho gaya. This is all theoretical, sounds very nice, but practically thoda mushkil hota hai. So you have to develop a sense of time that, okay, I have spent about 45 seconds, 60 seconds on this para summary question, but I'm not able to eliminate 3 choices out of 4. 3 mein phas gaya hu. 1 minute over. Probably I have to now let it go or spend 1 more minute and quickly solve it. So that's the kind of sense you have to develop by practice. You can't do it without practice. Usually people think, okay, I can just do random questions or CAT ke din ho jayega. Aisa nahi hota hai, you know that. Second thing is, once you have started getting questions right within 4 minutes, then you can reduce it to ultimately 2 minutes and then start doing sets of multiple question type. So initially do 10 questions of para jumble, 10 questions of para summary, but then after, let's say, once you reach or hit the 70% accuracy threshold, after this you can start using mixture. For example, 5 questions of para jumble, 5 questions of para summary one day, next day 5 questions of odd one out, 5 questions of missing sentence, and then third day you mix them up. So, but make sure the least you can do is 4 RCs, 10 VA questions every single day for next, even if you do it for 80 days, you would have done a sizable chunk of RCs. Almost 320 RCs would be a very good number. You ask people around, you ask your friends, 320 RCs भी करने वाले बहुत कम मिलेंगे आपको. So it's a very good number, and then doing almost 800 VA questions would be another achievement, right? So make sure, the point is that you make sure that you put in a lot of efforts, do a lot of questions, make sure you do not leave any stone unturned on your part. अपने तरफ से कोई इनपुट नहीं छोड़ना है, बाकी देखी जाएगी. अब बाकी उस दिन जो होता है वो अलग बात है, बट अपने तरफ से कोई कमी नहीं छोड़ सकते, राइट? सो लेट्स लुक एट दिस क्वेश्चंस. नाउ रिमेंबर, you can pause the video, you can attempt the question first, and then you can check the correct answer and explanation भी. बट पहले अटेम्प्ट करना थोड़ा अच्छा रहेगा, otherwise it won't really do a lot of good to you. So the very first question says 5 jumbled sentences related to a topic are given. 4 of them can be put together to form a coherent paragraph. Identify the odd one and key in the number of that sentence as your answer. Key in basically means it's a theta question, which means there is no negative marking. सही हो गया तो marks मिल जाएंगे, but otherwise कोई tension नहीं है. Now remember, theta questions are generally a trap. They basically make sure that because there is no negative marking, you spend a lot of time solving it. Again, have a sense of time, 60 seconds onwards. If you can't still figure it out, probably type the answer, move on, or put it on review, come back to it later. Phasna nahi hai basically, right? Now, another thing I keep on saying in odd one out questions is, please don't spend time creating a perfect paragraph. बहुत सारे students paragraph बनाने लग जाते हैं. Your job is not to create a paragraph, your job is to find which 4 sentences fall in one category and one which does not. बस ये पता लगाना है. So let's start. Having an appreciation for the working of another person's mind is considered a prerequisite requirement for natural language acquisition. So if you want to acquire language naturally, then you should be able to have the capacity for understanding the working of another person's mind. Okay? दूसरे का दिमाग कैसे काम करता है? If you understand, आप naturally language learn कर सकते हो. Strategic social interaction, reflexive thought, and moral judgment. So the first line says that if you understand how other person's mind work, you can acquire language, you can understand social interaction, you can understand reflexive thought, or even moral judgment. You can, have all this. ये सब हो सकता है. Okay, fine. It's a theory of mind, though some scholars prefer to call it mentalizing or mind reading, which is important for the development of one's cognitive abilities. Now, cognitive abilities basically means intelligence, mental abilities. But this one talked about another person's mind is considered a prerequisite for natural language acquisition. इन दोनों में कुछ कनेक्शन लग नहीं रहा. ये it is a theory of mind कहता है. So if I create a paragraph, can I say having an appreciation for the working of another person's mind is considered a prerequisite, and then it's a theory of mind? 1 और 2 में कुछ कनेक्शन नहीं लग रहा. कोई बात नहीं. Let's move on. Though we must speculate, guess about its evolutionary origin, we do have indication that the capacity evolved, which is mentioned in 1, evolved sometime in the last few million years. It's talking about the capacity. It is the capacity of appreciating or understanding. Appreciation here means understanding the working of another person's mind. So it's probably talking about the same thing. So 1, 3 looks like falling in one category. Again, this capacity develops from early beginning in the first year of life to adults' fast and often effortless understanding of others' thought, people's mind, capacity. So even this goes well. One of the most fascinating human capacities is the ability to perceive and interpret other people's behavior. Again, similar to what it says in 1. So even 5 talks about the same thing, but option 2 says it's a theory of mind, though some scholars prefer to call it mentalizing. And then it says which is important for the development of one's cognitive abilities, one's mental abilities, whereas 1, 3, 4 and 5, they all are talking about the capacity to read other people's mind. So 2 very clearly does not fall in this category, and therefore that must be the correct answer. Parajumble question. The following sentences, when properly arranged, form a coherent paragraph. In the answer, type the sequence of numbers. So theta question, type in the answer question. No negative marking, but then that again is a trap. ध्यान रखना है, trap है पूरी तरीके का. You might think, okay, another minute and I would be able to get the right answer. थोड़ा और time लगा देता हूँ, and suddenly you realize it's 5 minutes over. So even if you give a lot of time and get the right answer, it's not worth it. So again, have a sense of time. 1 minute, first minute, you can't figure it out properly or even half of it, probably not a great choice of question, छोड़ देते हैं. Second, if you think more than one combination makes sense, probably it's a trap, leave the question. Generally in CAT, you would see one question would be doable, one would be hard. You take a call then and there, you cannot figure it out beforehand. बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स पूछते हैं पहले कैसे पता चलेगा कौन सा मुश्किल और कौन सा आसान है. Questions don't come wearing a flag or holding a poster on their head. पता नहीं चलेगा, honestly speaking. You have to read it and find out. That's the reality. Let's do this one. So we look for connectors, you know that, right? Connectors, starting sentence, end sentence, and a lot of clues in between. And there is no sound but the rush of foam past the ship's side. The is an article, specific article. It means we're talking about a particular ship. And a word of continuity, there is no sound. So very clearly one would come afterwards. We have to find out what came before. Behind you, the Copeland lighthouse keeps guard over the sunrise. You. So who am I? Rani. And the tumbling surge of the channel before you is the cloud of smoke that joins the narrowing shores like a grey canopy. Narrowing shores. Shores are coming nearer. Eh? At first, it is nothing but the apex, highest point, of a great triangle formed by the heights on one side, the green wooded shores on the other, and the horizon astern. Horizon astern. Alright, so probably on the right side. As you go on, the triangle becomes narrower, the triangle. So we are talking about a particular triangle, and it says a great triangle. So a comes before the I have a car, the car is black. A comes first, the comes later. Good connection. The blue water smoother, and the ship, particular ship, glides on in a triangle of her own, a triangle of white foam that is parallel to the green triangle of the shore. Alright. If you enter you, we talked about you earlier, right? So you here. Enter Belfast Harbour early in the morning on the mail steamer from Fleetwood. You will see far ahead of you a smudge of smoke. Very clearly, fifth is the first statement because it gives you the context. If you enter Belfast Harbour, it talks about shore, talks about the sound and whatnot. And it says the mail steamer. This is the ship they are talking about. So I have to start with 5th. And then it says, as you go on, the triangle becomes, so I can't talk about the triangle before a great triangle. So 3 and 4 are together, that I know. And second says behind you. So first I talk about what came before me, and then I can talk about what came behind me and what comes in front of me. So very clearly, let's try 5, 3, 4. So if you enter Belfast Harbour, on the mail steamer, you see far ahead of you a smudge of smoke. Then 3, at first it's nothing. It's nothing means the smudge is nothing. Smudge basically means blurred lines. तो पहले कुछ दिखता नहीं है साफ. But the highest point of a great triangle. So basically it's a ship. So you enter the place in a ship, and far ahead you see, and there is a smudge here. But then it is basically the highest point of a triangle. You are entering a triangle basically. So the author is describing this. As you go on, the triangle becomes narrower. So 5, 3, 4. Behind you is Cape Lighthouse. Behind you is this, and before you is that. The cloud of smoke. That's why the author calls it smudge. And one says, and there is no sound but the rush of foam past the ship's side. Very clearly, and would come after that. So I have 5, 3, 4, 2 and 1. Can I have 5, 3, 4, 1, 2? Won't make sense. 5, if you enter Belfast Harbour. 3, at first there is nothing. Then 4, as you go on, the triangle becomes narrower. And then if I say, and there is no sound but the rush of foam past the ship's side. And then if I say, behind you. So are we saying that there is no sound? Very clearly, only the foam is rushing past. And then I talk about what comes before me. It's like I have described everything around me, and then I'm talking about what comes before and behind me. Whereas I should talk about the entire context and then finally say, and there is no sound. So it's like, the ending of the entire context, that you see nothing else, no sound comes, only the rush of foam past the ship. So that is where the paragraph is ending in terms of description. And therefore the correct sequence would be 5, 3, 4. Now another odd sentence question. We have to be very careful. We have to find 4 statements that fall in one category and one that does not. You don't have to really create a parajumble or a paragraph out of it, but broadly देखना होता है कि 4 कौन से सेंटेंस किधर जा रहे हैं और एक जो उस कैटेगरी में नहीं आता. In places, it could become so dear. What could become so dear? Something. Dear means expensive, as to cause house prices to fall. So something is becoming very expensive, and that is making the house prices fall. Some experts warn of a climate insurance bubble. So they were talking about insurance prices affecting a third of American homes. Okay, so we're talking about climate insurance. So probably the paragraph is about climate change, its impact. Governments must either tolerate the losses that imposes on house owners or underwrite the risk themselves. This talks about the loss on homeowners, or underwrite basically means taking the burden on itself. Okay, tolerate the loss of what? Underwrite the risk of what? Not very clear. So I don't know. 1 I would put in one basket, but 2 I'm unable to put as of now. As the climate worsens and natural disasters become more frequent, home insurance is therefore getting more expensive. This one is very clearly talking about climate insurance, home insurance, right? And talking about climate worsens. So I can put it here. I'm not sure about 2 yet. About a tenth of world's residential property by value is under threat from global warming, including many houses that are nowhere near the coast. Now this one says about a tenth of world's residential property, world's, but the passage here was talking about America. It was talking about home ownership in America, but this one is talking about world. So we can probably start with world and then talk about America. Maybe, not sure. So 4th is also problematic, though it talks about global warming, which is part of climate change. Insurers usually bear the cost of repairs after a storm destroys a roof or a fire guts a property. So this one is the description of climate insurance, or what insurance does. So at least related. Correct. Now I have a problem with 2 or 4. Let's see which 4 can create a possible paragraph. Suppose I start by talking about what insurance is. So insurance, because this paragraph is about insurance, so option 5th very clearly tells you what is an insurance. Insurance का मतलब क्या होता है. So let's start with 5. Insurance usually bears the cost of repair after a storm. Storm के बाद घर वर टूट गया तो इंश्योरर आपको पैसा दे देगा, इंश्योरेंस से मिल जाएगा. फाइन, सो आई कैन स्टार्ट विद दिस. In places it could become, now after this I can't say in places it could become so dear. I mean, why is it becoming expensive? Not given. Government must either tolerate the losses that imposes on homeowners or underwrite the risk themselves. Yet not making sense. But if I say, as the climate worsens and natural disasters become more frequent, home insurance is therefore getting more expensive. And after this, if I say that government must either tolerate the losses that is imposed on homeowners or government itself should pay for the insurance, then it will make sense. After this, it says in places it could become so dear. What is this it? The climate is the insurance that climate is making worse. So after 5.3, if I put 1, makes sense. It places it could become so dear as to cause house prices to fall. Insurance इतना महंगा हो जाएगा, लोग मकान ही नहीं खरीदेंगे. Makes sense. Some experts warn of a climate insurance bubble affecting a third of American homes. Very clearly, we are saying that as climate change happens, disasters take place more frequently, insurance costs will rise, and because of that, housing prices will also get impacted. Now, if I put 2 after this, it makes sense. Now, what is the possible solution? Government either tolerates the losses that is imposed on the homeowners, or underwrite the risk, basically means takes the insurance or pays for the insurance or compensates the people if they lose. So government ultimately takes responsibility. 5312 makes perfect sense. Now if you look at option 4th, it now is very clear why it does not belong to the group. It does not talk about insurance at all. It does not talk about damages to home owners or any kind of damages to the houses, their prices falling or rising, insurance prices going up or going down. All the statement 5312 talk about the same concept, that insurance is becoming more expensive, climate change is damaging property, vagara vagara. But this one is talking about a tenth of world's residential property by value is under threat. Nothing about insurance, nothing related to that is being talked about here, and that is why this must be the odd one out. Now let's try this one. We have to form a coherent paragraph. Use all that you know about parajumble questions, find connecting words, and use all the rules that you have learned in the classes. The dispute settlement body is hereby established to administer these rules and procedures and except as otherwise provided in a covered agreement, the consultation and dispute settlement provisions of the covered agreements. Okay. Accordingly, the DSB. Now, you know from parajumble classes, right? We have a full form here, we have a short form here. A has to come before B. If not immediately, no problem, but it has to come before B. So A, B साथ आए ना आए, A, B से पहले जरूर आएगा. That we know. Accordingly, the DSB shall have the authority to establish panels, adopt panels, appellate body, maintain surveillance, authorize suspension. With respect to dispute arising under a covered agreement, which is a plurilateral trade agreement, the term member as used herein shall refer only to those relevant to plurilateral trade agreement, where the DSB administers the dispute settlements provisions of a plurilateral trade agreement, only those members. Now if you look at it, option C tells you what exactly is a plurilateral trade agreement. It says a covered agreement which is a plurilateral trade agreement, and then it talks about what happens when you are trying to settle a dispute. Plurilateral trade agreement, very clearly it looks like only after I have written A I can talk about B, only I have talked about C I can talk about D. So it looks like the correct order is practically the paragraph itself, which means I don't have to change anything. Now just imagine this question appearing in your actual exam. You would spend probably 2 minutes extra thinking, can the answer be A, B, C, D? ये तो हो नहीं सकता. So you would try A, B, and then you would probably force yourself to think, okay, maybe it's A, B, D, C. But maybe it's A, B, C, D, maybe no, but it should be A, B, A, C, B, D, let me try D, A, B, C and whatnot, and you would get in the trap, and that's exactly what the examiners want. So remember, just because the question's answer looks easy, VA में कोई question आसान लगता है तो ये मत सोचना trap ही होगा, वो genuinely भी easy हो सकता है. For example, this question. So breaking that mindset is extremely important for an exam like CAT. Alright, we have to find out the odd sentence. As always, we would try to find 4 sentences that belong to one category. Now this question is a good question. It probably can keep you trapped for some time unless you pay very close attention. So let's look at the question and its answer. All towns went by local or sun time, but in the west of England this could be up to 20 minutes behind London's, and in the east up to 7 minutes ahead. So, but in the west of England, and then it talks about London. London's here basically means London's time. The decisive breakthrough in systemized travel came in 1784 when a unified network of public transport was introduced throughout the length and breadth of England, the mail coach system. The decisive breakthrough, final breakthrough, very important breakthrough, very important innovation. The solution was to provide each mail coach solution to a problem with a timepiece that could be preset to lose or gain as required, constant checks being made at certain post offices en route. Preset to lose or gain as required. Lose or gain as required means in the west of England, it could be 20 minutes behind London, so you're losing time. East up to 7 minutes ahead, so you are gaining time. So very clearly 1 and 3 are talking about the same thing. As might be expected, countrymen objected to having London time imposed upon them. Very clearly it's talking about the same problem of adjusting time according to London. And 2 talks about mail coach system getting introduced. Okay, but but you would notice it talks about the solution, it talks about countrymen objecting. This tells you what was the problem, right? But where did the problem come from? Where is the origin of the problem? Why is there a problem? Suppose in the west of England time was ahead or behind, or in the east it was ahead or behind. How does it make a difference? Where did the problem come from? The problem is mentioned in option 5th. The introduction of mail coach system that worked on fixed schedule led to a novel problem of timekeeping. ये mail coach का fixed schedule was the reason why timekeeping had to be done. Otherwise timekeeping कोई नहीं करता था. Nobody bothered about it. Which means 5 also falls in this category. So which one is the odd one out? Very clearly second. Now your mind might say, how about this one? Suppose I keep 5 and 2 and 3 and 1 together and declare 4th as the odd one out. There is a problem. Suppose you start your paragraph by 5th. The introduction of mail coach system that worked on fixed schedule. Second says the decisive breakthrough was the mail coach system. So you have to start with second. And after that if I say the introduction of mail coach system that worked on fixed schedule led to a novel problem of timekeeping in England. But you have talked about this already, no? In England. So why would you repeat it unnecessarily? 2 and 5 will not go together. एक choose करना पड़ेगा. I can't choose second because it does not tell me what is the problem. The problem was fixed schedule, which is not mentioned in second. So I have to sacrifice second. The correct answer very clearly would be, therefore, second. So I hope you learned few things here. You saw the question level, the novelty of CAT, क्या क्या नई चीज़ें वो कर सकते हैं. Of course, we would be very happy to help you. If you join our courses, you can check out more about it on our website rodha.co.in. हमारे YouTube चैनल पे भी बहुत सारे वीडियोस मिल जाएंगे. Make sure you be in touch with us. Subscribe in case you have not done it yet. Thank you so much for watching this.